is about Swift and CocoaPods. Now, Swift is the programming language that is used in iOS and actually lots of different areas. They even have, I didn't know this, but they actually have Swift for server, so you can run Swift on your server. But Swift has grown massively in popularity over the last few years. You can see on this chart how it's used quite heavily in both Stack Overflow and on GitHub. So it's really pretty much almost one of the most popular languages to use right now. And we can see that here, that it tops a lot of other operating systems. Not operating systems, other programming languages, I mean. And just a brief overview about the benefits and the beauties of Swift is, one, it's open source, right? And they have a very active community that helps to push it and to make it so that it's up to snuff with all the other programming languages. It's built to work side by side with Objective-C, and lots of the libraries that you can use with it actually incorporate quite heavily Objective-C. One thing I had a lot of fun with was how it has these playgrounds, which you can just kind of, if you're not on a project, you just want to mess with some code, it's really nice just to have this out there, and instead of having print statements everywhere, it tells you on that line what it evaluates to, or what it would print out to, right there, right side by side where you're working, which is really convenient. That's actually called read eval print loop, REPL, right? It's also designed for safety. You have these things called optionals. Super handy. It allows so that, optionals aren't the default. Because the default, if only you put null, or in Swift it's nil, for anything. You have to assign every variable to have something started out with, unless it's an optional. And so you have to explicitly say that, trust me, compiler, I know what I'm doing with this. It's not going to be null when I need to use it, so it kind of makes you check your code a little bit more, so you're more careful as a programmer. It's also very modern and very quick, very, very quick, as we'll see later. And I love the emojis. I had never put smiley faces and emojis in my code or in print statements, and it's really fun. So here you go. Here's the playground. You can see, on the right-hand side, all the things that are evaluated in each individual line. Right? There's a print statement. It shows how it would print. There's a for loop. It tells you how many times it went through that loop when it ran. It's just super, super handy. All the times you're I wonder how much times it went through the loop. For performance reasons, you don't have to count it. This just tells you, if there's a functional time, how many times the function was called. Super handy. And here's some more benefits. Here's, once again, the emojis. You could print out new high score. Fun little emoji right there. Just a fun language. Here's more talking about the optionals here. At the optional, if you look in player, it's the question mark. So you could say that function, it can return player, or it's fine if it doesn't return a player. It can fine if it returns a null, but you have to explicitly tell it that that's okay, or else by default it has to return a player. Put the question mark at the end of it, then you don't have to anymore. All right. And then on the bottom is another demonstration about this double question mark at the second to last line at the very bottom. It says, if it is null, then go ahead and give the value of 0. There's really handy things like this if-let statement at the very top of this code block. We can see that if players is something, then we're going to do something with it. Or else we're just going to print no games have been played. Right? It's super, super handy for making sure, super short, brief, few lines of code for making sure that your variable actually contains something. Now, I mentioned it was fast, and I found this little demo where it talks about how fast it is compared to Go and Python. Right? He also compared it to, there's tests that compare it to C++. But this is super handy because, many of us love Python. It's easy to learn, easy to get a grasp on, but it's amazing how much faster Swift is than Python. Go's kind of in the same ballpark, but Swift was the fastest. And here's, it's amazing magnitudes faster than Python, and even the special PyPy Python. And then one thing I was going to talk about is CocoaPods. It's a nice little dependency manager. I like how it's supported by big companies you've heard of, like Google or Slack, right? 63,000 libraries, 3 million apps. It's open sourced, easy to install and configure. It has a massive community surrounding it, right? They like to tout how they're volunteer powered and community driven. Something that's fun is the pod spec is kind of how you build these little libraries people can include, little modules. You can, if you're interested, you name, version, the source files that you have with it, anything that happens after it's done installing, and these developers build these pods, push it out to CocoaPods, and then you have these things. If you're a developer, you have a pod file where you say, I want to install all these different pods, and then it'll just automatically grab the most recent version of these libraries and include it into your project. Super handy. That's why it's supported by Google and everything. Love it. So hopefully this is helpful. I've been really learned a lot from Swift. Really, at the beginning, optionals can kind of like tear you a little bit because it's like, it didn't work. How come I didn't like it? It's because I have to figure out. Can't have a null there. I'm used to having programs set into null originally and then give it a value later. But you have to figure out how to do optionals and unwrapping and stuff like that. But it's really handy, really useful.